In 1989, NBC sold a canceled beach show about lifeguards for $10. That same show would go on to become the most watched television program on the entire planet. So today, we're diving into one of the most brutal years in television history. 1989, a year when the networks threw everything at the wall and almost nothing stuck. We're talking about shows with Oscar winners, Emmy winners, Tony winners, and comedy legends that still couldn't survive. And here's what makes this story fascinating. Hidden among these disasters were the very first TV appearances of future superstars like Halle Berry, Matt LeBlanc, and Alyson Hannigan. If you're ready for some serious television nostalgia, mixed with a healthy dose of schadenfreude, hit that subscribe button. Let's count down the 10 biggest TV flops of 1989. Number 10. TV 101.
Birthday, dear Jennifer, you're such a big girl now. Happy birthday to you.
We're starting with a show that committed one of the cardinal sins of network television: bad scheduling. TV 101 was CBS trying to capture some of that youthful Fox energy that was working so well for shows like 21 Jump Street. The premise followed a divorced photojournalist who returns to teach journalism at his old high school, with students producing a TV news program. It starred Sam Robards, son of Lauren Bacall and Jason Robards, and featured music by Todd Rundgren. So where did CBS put this show aimed at younger viewers? Tuesday nights at 8, directly against Roseanne, the number 2 show in America. Who's the Boss at number 7? And Matlock. They scheduled a teen drama against 3 of the biggest hits on television. The premiere drew just 9.9 million viewers. The final episode managed a 4.5 rating. The show lasted 17 episodes total, with only 13 making it to air. But here's where it gets interesting. One of the cast members was a young actor playing the jock character named Chuck Bender. His name was Matt LeBlanc. A pop culture critic later noted that even though the performance was rough, it didn't matter. The pretty boy is always the one who becomes the star. She was right. LeBlanc went on to become Joey Tribbiani on Friends. His castmates Terry Polo and Stacey Dash also went on to major careers in Meet the Parents and Clueless. Number 9. Free Spirit.
Our social lives will be triple wicked. I'm tired of waiting. Maybe we should call them. No!
Speaking of future superstars hiding in failed shows, let's talk about Free Spirit. This ABC fantasy sitcom starred Corinne Bohrer as a 324-year-old witch who becomes the housekeeper for a divorced dad and his 3 kids. Basically, what happens when you mix Bewitched with a family sitcom? The cast included a 15-year-old actress in her first regular TV role, Alyson Hannigan. Free Spirit holds a unique place in television history. It was technically the very first show to air on ABC's legendary TGIF lineup on September 22nd, 1989. But after just one Friday airing, the show got yanked off the block and exiled to Sunday nights. Why? Reportedly because of contractual obligations that kept another show in that Friday slot. So, Free Spirit ended up on Sundays, sandwiched between other struggling shows, facing CBS's Murder, She Wrote. And then, in December 1989, The Simpsons premiered. One retrospective described it as a ratings bloodbath not even a witch could stop. When Free Spirit was canceled in January 1990, it was replaced by America's Funniest Home Videos, which, fun fact, is still on the air today. So both the show that killed it and the show that replaced it have now outlasted it by over 35 years. Critics were not kind. In a poll by Electronic Media magazine, television critics voted Free Spirit the worst show on television. But despite all that, Hannigan earned a Young Artist Award nomination. She went on to play Willow Rosenberg on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, starred in the American Pie franchise, and co-led How I Met Your Mother for 9 seasons. Number 8. The Nutt House.
Hey! That is the...
Kinky.
You would think that a show created by Mel Brooks, starring Harvey Korman and Cloris Leachman, would be a guaranteed hit. you would be wrong. The Nutt House was a slapstick farce set in a once prestigious but now run-down New York City hotel. Cloris Leachman played dual roles, both the housekeeper and the eccentric hotel owner. Harvey Korman was the pompous hotel manager. One cast member described it as Police Squad meets Faulty Towers. NBC gave this show a prime spot on Wednesday nights between Night Court and Quantum Leap. The pilot drew 23 million viewers thanks to that lead-in. But by episode 3, that number had dropped to 15.6 million. As one newspaper reported at the time, not only was the Nutt House dying, but it was taking Quantum Leap down with it. Behind the scenes, there was a creative battle that may have doomed the show. Brooks and his co-creator wanted a single-camera comedy with no laugh track. NBC forced them to add one. Harvey Korman's son later wrote that the imposed laugh track undermined the sophisticated comedic timing. His father, he said, worked better with the immediacy of having an audience react naturally. The show lasted just 5 episodes on NBC before cancellation. But here's a twist. All 11 produced episodes actually aired on BBC Two in the United Kingdom, where it became a moderate cult hit. American viewers never got to see them. Number 7. Living Dolls.
Pictures of himself.
He said you never know when your modeling agency might need a roaming god.
Living Dolls was an ABC sitcom and spin-off of Who's the Boss. It followed teenage girls living together while pursuing modeling careers in New York City. It starred Michael Learned and Leah Remini, but the most significant cast member was a young actress making her very first professional acting appearance. Halle Berry. The show had one of the worst premieres imaginable from a critical standpoint. People magazine gave it an F grade, the only show that entire season to receive that rating. Critics savaged the premise of glamorizing teenage modeling. When the preview special aired after Who's the Boss, it pulled a 20.4 rating. But once it moved to its regular Saturday night slot, ratings collapsed to a season average that ranked it 99th out of approximately 100 primetime shows. Behind the scenes, the production was troubled from the start. Vivica A. Fox was originally cast in Barry's role before being replaced. Michael Learned later said producers underutilized Barry's obvious talent. Then, something happened during filming that changed Halle Berry's life. She collapsed on set and went into a diabetic coma. She was subsequently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, a pivotal moment she's spoken about publicly many times since. Despite the show's failure, Berry went on to become one of the biggest movie stars in the world. In 2002, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for Monsters Ball, the first African-American woman to receive that honor. Leah Remini became famous on The King of Queens, and later as an outspoken critic of Scientology. Number 6. Nightingales.
Yolanda, your mother is going to pay for my sugar overload.
Yeah, good luck collecting.
Nightingales wasn't killed by low ratings. It was killed by organized protest. This NBC medical drama from Aaron Spelling followed 5 attractive student nurses living together in Los Angeles. The pilot had scored an impressive 18.9 rating. The series regularly drew 15 to 20 million viewers per episode. Those were respectable numbers, but the American Nurses Association wasn't watching ratings. They were watching the content, and they launched one of the most effective media campaigns in television history. Thousands of nurses flooded NBC and its advertisers with letters. The ANA accused the show of demeaning the nursing profession. One nursing instructor told the press she didn't want this type of image on TV. Multiple major sponsors withdrew their advertising. The advertiser boycott made the show financially unviable, regardless of how many people were watching. According to one book about the television industry, Aaron Spelling had pitched the show to NBC as student nurses sharing a house in California where the air conditioning doesn't work. The show had replaced Saint Elsewhere, an acclaimed intelligent medical drama, with this content. Critics noticed the irony. Star Suzanne Plachette publicly apologized for the show's emphasis on what she called doctor-chasing airheads. Despite its quick cancellation, Nightingales had some notable cast members. Christy Swanson went on to become the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the 1992 film. Roxanne Dawson became Lieutenant B'Elanna Torres on Star Trek Voyager, and later a prolific television director. And Dean Cain had a tiny role as a delivery guy, years before playing Superman on Lois and Clark. Number 5. Tattingers.
Here's chapter 1.
You little cockroach. Why? You've been dealing drugs across the street from where my daughter...
Tattingers is one of the strangest stories in television history because it's really two failures for the price of one. This NBC comedy drama came from the creators of the acclaimed Saint Elsewhere. Stephen Collins and Blythe Danner starred as divorced co-owners of an upscale Manhattan restaurant. The supporting cast included Jerry Stiller and a young Rob Morrow. It was NBC's first drama filmed in New York since the 1950s. The pilot drew 20.5 million viewers. Then, the bottom fell out. By episode 2, viewership dropped to 12.5 million and kept sinking. NBC canceled it in January 1989. But then, NBC Entertainment president Brandon Tartikoff made one of the strangest decisions in television history. He decided that Tattingers was actually a comedy, and he ordered it converted from a 1-hour drama into a half-hour sitcom. One of the show's creators called it a television first, an hour drama morphing into a sitcom. Rob Morrow was cut. Chris Elliott was added. One of the daughters was recast. The creators wanted to call the new series formerly Tattingers, but NBC vetoed it. They compromised on Nick and Hillary. NBC then gave this retooled version the best possible slot. Between Cheers and L.A. Law on Thursday night, the premiere drew 21 million viewers. The second episode collapsed to 13.3 million. NBC canceled it immediately. Again. So the same show failed twice in 2 different formats within the span of a few months. But look at where the talent ended up. Tom Fontana, one of the creators, went on to make Homicide: Life on the Street in Oz. Rob Morrow starred in Northern Exposure and Numb 3 Arias. Jerry Stiller became iconic as Frank Costanza on Seinfeld. Chris Elliott created Get a Life and later appeared in Schitt's Creek. Number 4. The famous Teddy Z.
I work here.
In the mailing?
Yeah, my tux is at the cleaners.
Here's a trivia question for you. How many canceled shows have won an Emmy? Not many. The famous Teddy Z is one of them. This CBS sitcom was created by Hugh Wilson, the man behind WKRP in Cincinnati. It starred John Cryer as a mailroom worker at a Hollywood talent agency who accidentally becomes a major agent. Alex Rocco played his volcanic boss. The premise was inspired by a true story about a mailroom clerk at MCA who became Marlon Brando's agent. The pilot drew 22.2 million viewers. The Hollywood Reporter called it the season's best new comedy. But then, the ratings fell off a cliff. Viewership declined nearly every week. The final aired episode drew just 5.4 million viewers, a 76% decline from premiere to cancellation. Behind the scenes, there was chaos. One cast member was fired after several episodes due to creative issues, and reportedly sued the producers for $2 million. The producer left before shooting wrapped. And one producer later revealed he'd actually wanted Ben Stiller for the lead role instead of John Cryer. But despite all this chaos, Alex Rocco won the Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. He later said Teddy Z was the most fun he ever had working on a show. John Cryer went on to star in 2.5 Men for 12 seasons. Number 3. Chicken Soup. If there was one show in 1989 that absolutely could not fail, it was Chicken Soup. Jackie Mason had just won a Tony Award for his one-man Broadway show. The sitcom was produced by Carsey Werner, the company behind The Cosby Show, and Roseanne, and it occupied the single most valuable time slot in all of television. the 30 minutes immediately following Roseanne, the #1 show in America. Almost every TV prognosticator picked this as the season's biggest hit. The pilot debuted at number 2 with 31 million viewers. The season average made it technically the highest-rated new show of fall 1989. So why is it on this list? Because Chicken Soup was hemorrhaging roughly 1/3 of Roseanne's audience every single week. Viewership declined steadily from 31 million to 22.4 million across just 8 episodes. It was the show that couldn't miss, missing spectacularly. Critics noted that Mason and his co-star Lynn Redgrave had zero romantic chemistry. One reviewer observed it was difficult to imagine Mason's character being in love with anyone. The show only came alive when Mason could sneak in bits of his stand-up routine. Making matters worse, Mason got embroiled in a controversy during the 1989 New York City mayoral race. He made inflammatory remarks that were widely condemned. He was dropped from the campaign just 2 weeks into the show's run. ABC Entertainment president Robert Iger, yes, the future Disney CEO, personally announced the cancellation. Mason later delivered a brutally honest verdict on the experience. He said he was praying for a heart attack to get off the show because he hated every second of it. He said he'd rather face a firing squad than do another sitcom. The show that replaced it? Coach, which became a hit and ran for 9 seasons. Number 2, The Pat Sajak Show. CBS spent more than $4 million building a new soundstage specifically for this show. They hired a staff of over 30 people. They signed Pat Sajak, the beloved host of Wheel of Fortune, to a guaranteed 2-year contract at a reported $60,000 per week. The plan was simple. Use Sajak's likability to dethrone Johnny Carson in late night. The first week actually looked promising. Sajak led all late-night programming in total viewers during his debut. Then, everything collapsed. Here's what CBS didn't anticipate. The Arsenio Hall show had launched just 6 days earlier and captured the cultural moment with an edgier, younger-skewing format. Sajak's Carson imitation felt instantly outdated. By August 1989, Sajak trailed Carson, Arsenio, Letterman, and Nightline, dead last among all late-night programming. By December, more than 50 CBS affiliates had dumped Sajak in favor of Arsenio. One network executive who had initially opposed the hire was proven right. He'd argued that Wheel of Fortune fans were largely older women who went to bed early. In desperation, CBS made radical format changes in February 1990. They dropped the monologue, replaced the desk setup with a round table, brought in guest hosts. They were essentially auditioning replacements on the air. Then came the infamous Rush Limbaugh incident. In March 1990, Limbaugh guest hosted and waded into the audience to discuss an abortion bill. He was shouted down by activists. Security had to clear the entire studio audience. Limbaugh finished the show in an empty room. Sajak wasn't even present for the final episode. He was in Europe. Paul Rodriguez hosted instead. Sajak later acknowledged that if he'd done a show people really wanted to watch, it would probably still be on the air. He returned to Wheel of Fortune, where he remained until his retirement in 2024. He became the longest-serving game show host in history. CBS wouldn't have another successful late-night show until David Letterman arrived in 1993. Number 1. Baywatch. And now, we arrive at the show that makes this entire list worthwhile. Because sometimes, being a flop is just the beginning. Baywatch premiered on NBC in September 1989. It cost $1.3 million per episode. David Hasselhoff starred as the head lifeguard. Critics dismissed it as Body Watch and Babe Watch. The show finished 73rd out of 103 shows in the seasonal ratings. Firmly in the bottom third, it was one of all 5 new NBC fall shows to get canceled. The production company GTG went out of business. Here's where most TV stories end. But not this one. Hasselhoff and the show's creators refused to let it die. They bought back the syndication rights from the bankrupt production company. The price? $10. Every major company turned them down. Finally, they found a distribution deal. Slashed the production budget from $1.3 million to around $800,000 per episode, and brought the show back in first-run syndication in 1991. Baywatch became the most watched television program on Earth. At its peak, it aired in 148 countries, with a weekly audience of over 1.1 billion viewers, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. The New York Times called it America's most pervasive cultural export. One writer perfectly explained its international appeal by noting that if you've ever been to Glasgow in February, you understand why a show about sunny beaches and attractive lifeguards would be appealing. Hasselhoff became co-executive producer and reportedly the highest paid actor in syndicated television. All because NBC thought the show wasn't worth keeping. Conclusion. So what does the wreckage of 1989 tell us about television? It tells us that talent doesn't guarantee success. Shows featuring early performances by Halle Berry, Alyson Hannigan, Matt LeBlanc, Rob Morrow, and Jerry Stiller all failed. Behind the cameras, future powerhouses like Tom Fontana, who created Homicide in Oz, and Mark Cherry, who created Desperate Housewives, all had their work canceled that year. The talent wasn't the problem. The ecosystem was changing faster than the networks could adapt. NBC's legendary entertainment president Brandon Tartikoff titled his autobiography The Last Great Ride because he believed network TV's golden age was ending. And he was right. The audience was fragmenting. Cable was growing. Fox was rising. The Simpsons arrived that December and changed everything. And then there's Baywatch, the show NBC threw away for $10 that became, at its peak, the most watched program on the planet. 1989 was a brutal year for television, but it was also a reminder that in this business, nothing is ever truly over. The actors who played forgettable roles became superstars. The writers who got canceled became legends. And the beach show nobody wanted became a global phenomenon. If you enjoyed this trip through television history, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next deep dive. Drop a comment letting me know which of these shows you actually remember watching.